The vicious cycle of addiction. So we've learned that if we ignore our internal barometer, our feeling tone, our automatic judgments, our automatic thoughts, that we are at risk of losing our sobriety of mind. And when we lose our sobriety of mind, we are at risk of a slip. And when we slip, we are at risk of losing our abstinence, we are at risk of having a relapse. And when we have a relapse, we often get stuck on the vicious cycle of addiction. So let's look at an example of a vicious cycle. First, you have the trigger. So the trigger could be you had an argument with your partner. Perhaps the argument was with your partner who's frustrated with you, frustrated that they have to hide all the alcohol away in the house, or they have to hide all the sugar away in the house, or they have to hide magazines. And you have this big argument. That's the trigger. Then what happens when we are triggered? There is a feeling tone, a feeling. And this feeling may simply be unpleasant. You're just feeling unpleasant. And your palms are sweaty. Perhaps you've actually got a knot in your stomach and you've got tension in your head, and it all feels unpleasant. That's the feeling tone. Then there are the thoughts. So the thoughts could be, get me out of here, I don't want to be here, it's not fair. Then emotions can arise. And these emotions can be anger, can be resentment, can be irritation, can be frustration. And then thinking arises. And we start thinking, well, what's the point? I've been doing my best. I may as well just pick up. I may as well go for my choice of distraction. I may as well just go on a bender. I may as well just break my abstinence. What the hell? And then actions arise. And the action is we pick up our choice of distraction. Of course, there is a gain. And what do we gain? Perhaps temporarily a relief from all the discomfort that has been arising in your experience. Perhaps we gain having a bit of fun with our friends. Perhaps we gain numbing ourselves to the experience. But there is a cost. Actions have consequences, and there is a cost. The cost is you've had a slip. The cost is you've broken your abstinence. The cost is you've lost your sobriety of mind. The cost is you're now feeling guilty. The cost is you're angry with yourself. And so now you're back into feeling tone. Forget about the trigger. The trigger has become irrelevant. You're back in the feeling tone, and now you're feeling unpleasant. And you're back into thoughts. It's not fair. And then you're back into the emotions, feeling angry, resentful, irritated, and you're back into thinking, what the hell, I'm just going to use, I've had a slip, and you're back into actions, and you're on a bender, and you're back into gains, and maybe there is a gain. Maybe you gain not facing the consequences of your immediate action. But there's a cost. You're on a bender, you can't stop. And maybe you could lose your job. Maybe your partner says, that's it, I've had enough. I'm leaving this relationship. And so there are all these huge costs. And forget about the feeling tone. You're in thoughts now. And the thoughts are, what the hell? What am I going to do? And you're in emotions and you're angry and you're resentful. And now you're into thinking, well, that's it. I've destroyed everything. I'm just going to carry on. I'm just going to carry on with my choice of distraction. And you pick up and now you're into gains. Maybe there is a gain. Maybe you just don't have to think about all the things that you have lost, but there is a cost. You're in this relapse and you don't know how to get off this vicious cycle. And now forget about thoughts. You're in emotions. You're now gone into emotions and you're really angry. You're angry and you're into thinking, and perhaps you just can't even hear the thinking. It's happening so quickly that you're just into actions and you're into this continual relapse and there's no gain anymore and you're just in costs. You're just in costs now. And now you're in actions. Forget about the thoughts and the thinking. You're in actions and there are no gains from your actions and you're in costs. And now you're just stuck in costs and you're stuck in this vicious cycle that keeps you going around and around, and you're just in these costs, and these costs are huge. So how do you get off this vicious cycle when you're stuck in the costs? I often ask people, how do you step off this cycle? And often people say, well, at the costs, I can step off at the costs. But it's very unlikely that you can step off the cycle at costs. You're in the relapse. You've left your body. You're out of your body. You're out of your mind. You're perhaps having out-of-body experiences, or perhaps your whole body is numb. You've lost the body. It's almost impossible to step off at the costs. But of course, we end up going around and around on this cycle. Sometimes people say thoughts, but as we heard earlier, those automatic judgments and those automatic thoughts will grip the mind. They will control the reactions, and it will be very hard to loosen the grip, to loosen the reactions, because we're already sinking, we're already drowning in our thoughts. So the place where we can step off this cycle is at feeling tone. Yes, because those cycles, they go around and around, and sometimes you may just get a glimpse of a gift, and you may just get that glimpse of actually feeling the anxiety, feeling the nausea in your body, feeling the agitation. The thing is, as I said in the first week, feeling is going to arise. When we're triggered, there's contact. Contact and feeling come together. We cannot avoid the feeling. Feeling will arise. But the feeling doesn't have to have the same power over us. It doesn't have to lure us into this vicious cycle. If we turn towards the feeling and we turn towards the body, we will begin to pause. We won't end up in those branches of the tree that I spoke about earlier. We will be at the root and grounded. And we may catch a thought arising out of that feeling tone saying, it's really okay. Everybody has arguments. It's okay. Maybe I just need to sit down and take a pause. I just need to turn towards the feeling tone. And this is the place we can step off the cycle and bring to a grinding halt that vicious cycle. I want to tell you a story about myself. A couple of years ago, I went out to dinner with a friend. We went to an Indian restaurant and I ordered a thali. A thali is a silver plate with about 6 little silver bowls. And in each bowl, there is a different dish. Well, my eye was stimulated by a brown-looking dish. So I went for that dish first. I took a teaspoonful because I was eating with a teaspoon and I put it in my mouth. And as I put it in my mouth, I was aware it was sugar. And sugar for me is my alcohol. When I have sugar in my system, I cannot stop. When I have sugar in my system, I'm at risk of being on that vicious cycle. So I had the sugar, the trigger, and the feeling tone was very unpleasant. I felt agitated in my body. I felt tense. And I was aware I was salivating because I love sugar. So I was salivating and I was aware I was craving. And I took the dish, the little round bowl, lifted it off the silver plate and put it down on the table slightly away from me. And I sat with the discomfort of the feeling. It was like a magnet. It was like this silver dish was attracting me to it. And I could feel the tension. It was so unpleasant that I had to put my cutlery down and take a pause. And then after a minute or so, the magnetism broke and there was relief. And I turned to my friend and said, that was sugar. I'm okay now. And I pushed it away and there was no interest. I had absolutely disinterest in that sugar for the rest of the meal. I had stepped off the vicious cycle at feeling tone. I was able to have a new thought, just thinking, okay, it was sugar. It's not going to kill me. It's okay. Just take a pause. And I stepped off the cycle. So that's the vicious cycle of addiction and how we can begin to step off it.